Hello everybody, this is Valencia and welcome to my channel Balloons in Business, where I show you the business of balloon and event decor. So today I'm going to show you one of the simplest and easiest ways to make a wood Chiara wall using those very popular wall panels that they sell at Hobby Lobby. They're on sale again right now, so I picked up a couple of them and I'm going to show you how I made this wall, as well as how I made this balloon garland and applied my vinyl lettering and the vinyl decals. So if you want to see how I made this, just stay tuned. So I purchased 2 of these 3-panel sets from Hobby Lobby, and these have been very popular. People have been using them to make balloon backdrops. So this is how the panels look opened, and usually people will leave it like this and paint them and put their balloons and decorations on there. But I'm going to make this into a Chiara wall. So there's 3 panels, 2 5-feet panels on the outside, and the middle panel is 6 feet. So each panel has 3 brackets on the sides that are connecting them together, and they are simply screwed on. So I'm going to use a mini Phillips screwdriver to unscrew these brackets and take these panels apart. Now, to make things easier for myself, I'm going to leave half of the bracket on, and I'm going to leave it on the 5-foot boards. So I'm unscrewing the bracket off of the 6-foot board and leaving the brackets on the 5-foot board. By leaving the other half of the bracket onto the 5-foot board, it's going to make it easier and save time for me later on in this project. I would recommend laying the boards down like I'm doing right now and taking the screws out this way. It's much easier. I tried to do it standing upright so you guys can see it on camera, but it's much easier laying it down. And it would also be easier for you if you had an assistant to help you. So here are the 2 middle 6-foot panels. So eventually I'm going to screw the brackets back in and position the boards like this. However, in order for the boards to stay up when they're positioned like this, I'm going to need to add one of the 5-feet panels in order to support this wall. So here are the 2 6-feet panels pushed together, and as you can see, the holes are in alignment with each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the 5-foot panel, and remember that I left the bracket onto that 5-foot panel to where the other half of that bracket is free. So I'm going to take that free half of the bracket from the 5-foot board and I'm going to flip it over to the middle 6-foot board. But before I attach that onto that 6-foot board, I want to get another bracket, and I got these from one of the 5-foot boards that I'm not going to be using. And you want to make sure that bracket opens away from you. It has to be in the right position. And I'm going to take 1/2 of that bracket and put it onto the middle board and flip the other half of the bracket from the 5-foot board onto the 6-foot board. And then I am going to screw those 2 brackets into that middle board. So once I've done that, I'm going to add the last 6-foot board right there on the left. And then I'm going to lay the other half of that bracket onto that board. And then I'm going to screw that bracket into that last 6-foot board. Now, just a tip, this was pretty hard for me to screw these brackets back on when the boards are standing upright like this. So I'm going to show you the position that I eventually put the boards in to make it a lot easier. So I basically laid the curved sides of the boards down on the floor while having the flat sides upright. So I'm just repeating the process for all 3 brackets. Remember, the original panels had 3 brackets, one at the top, one at the middle, and one at the bottom. So here's how it looks when you're done. So you want to make sure that your brackets are facing the right direction before you screw them in. You see the spine, that little middle part right there? You want to make sure those are facing outward. Okay? If you don't see those, then they're facing the wrong way. You have to face them the right way in order for the boards to fold out right. And remember, I got the extra brackets from the 5 feet panels that I wasn't using. Remember, there's 3 other 5 feet panels and I got the brackets from those. So here's how my Chiara wall looks with the 5-foot board added to the back for support. And you see how crucial it is to make sure that those brackets are facing the right direction so that they will fold out in the right way. So this is the back of the wall and this is the front of the wall. In regards to this portion right here, if you want to, you can try to sand this down. You could keep this the way it is. You can paint it, of course. You can put vinyl on this. You can put cloth on this. So there's so many, different ways, or you can leave it like this. I'm actually going to leave it like this for this next balloon garland. Somebody wanted a safari themed baby shower, and so I want the wood because it looks, it matches the safari theme. And so I'm going to keep this the way it is. I'm not even going to paint it because I like the light colored wood look. And so I'm going to use that to do this themed baby shower. So I'll show you how I do that. So before I apply the balloons, I'm going to apply the vinyl. So I made this sign from my Cricut machine, and you want to make sure that you position the letters so that they're not in the crease. You don't want them touching the crease of the board because when you fold the board, you don't want to mess up the lettering. So make sure all the letters are on either side of the crease of your wall, that middle line there. And that's transfer tape. I just applied a little bit of pressure to the board and then slowly taking the transfer tape off so I can put my lettering on. Now I bought these off of Amazon. There's some very cute little safari themed wall decals. Now the decals came in one large panel, but again, just like with the lettering, I don't want any of my decal to go over the crease of the wall because I don't want to mess it up if I fold the wall for transport. So I'm cutting my decals and piecing them on so that they're on either half of the wall. So I'm going to show you when I apply this giraffe, notice how the ear is going to go over that crease. So I'm going to cut the portion of the ear that's going over that crease and place it on the other side of the wall on that other panel. And I'm going to do the same thing with the elephant's ear right here. That ear goes over the crease right there. So I'm going to cut that ear where it goes over the crease and place it on the other side of the wall or the opposite panel. So the balloons that I'm using are 5-inch, 11-inch, and 18-inch Sempertex brand, Fashion Latte, Fashion Eucalyptus, and Fashion Blush. So I'm going to blow my balloons up 2 at a time, round them out, and then tie them together into dupes. So that is an 18-inch balloon on the left and an 11-inch balloon on the right. So now I'm going to twist together 3 dupes or 6 balloons together in a cluster. And you want to make sure that you double twist these dupes so that they do not pop out of the cluster. So 2 of these dupes are going to have just 11-inch balloons, and one of the dupes is going to have one 11-inch balloon and one 18-inch balloon. So now I'm going to be using these 2 60Q balloons to connect my clusters together. So these are the long stretchy balloons that you make balloon animals out of. So I'm going to tie the 2 ends together to make like a rubber band. And then I'm going to wrap the 2 60Q around a couple balloons in one cluster, and then take another cluster and wrap that same 260Q around at least 2 to 3 balloons in another cluster to get a nice tight fit. Now I like using 260Q balloons over regular rubber bands because I feel like they're more elastic. Now you can use whatever color you want. I'm using basic black because that's what I have on hand. So this is what my balloon garland base looks like. So I have 6 clusters, 2 of each color. And this stands at about 9 feet. Each of the clusters are about 1.5 feet or 18 inches. And remember, each cluster has 6 balloons in it. So 6 clusters times 6 balloons equals 36 total balloons in my balloon garland base. So before I go to my event, I like to pre-make my fillers, and I usually make them in clusters of 4 balloons. And I also like to pre-make my 5-inch clusters. So I do 2 pumps, 1, 2, tie them together, and twist together 2 dupes to make a cluster of 4. So I'm at the location and it's outdoors and very windy outside. So you got to make sure you got this thing secured. So that is a backdrop clip, and I just slipped a 260Q balloon in the mouth, tied the ends together, and then double twisted it into the mouth of the clip. I'm adding at least 3 clips onto this board, but you may need to add more depending on the weather. Now the balloons are going to be on grass, so I'm just kind of using a trash bag and some poster board to place on the bottom so that the balloons don't pop. And now I'm going to be attaching my balloons. I think in the future I'm going to get a large piece of foam board dedicated for grass installs. So I'm just showing you how I'm attaching the balloons. I'm taking that 260Q balloon rubber band and I'm wrapping it around an 11-inch balloon that's closest to the board. And then I'm just going to adjust the balloon garland. And I'm going to do that at all 3 points on the wall. So now I'm adding my filler clusters using a 260Q, but this time I'm just going to tie one end around one of the clusters and leave one of the other ends out. And then I'm going to wrap that other end of the 260Q around a couple balloons in the pre-existing garland, wrap it back into my new cluster, and then tie the 260Q into itself. So I'm going to add my fillers going up the balloon garland. I'm just going to add them to the left end right there. And it's very windy, so I'm trying to adjust these balloons as I'm adding my filler. But I'm just going up the balloon garland and adding my filler as needed. So I'm just showing you up close how I'm adding the filler, just wrapping that 260Q around the balloon in the balloon garland and then tying it into itself. And make sure you adjust your balloons. These balloons don't just, sit in place perfectly the way you want them. Don't be afraid to adjust your balloons to your desires, especially if you're outdoors and it's windy. You might need to do a lot of adjusting. So I got tired of the bottom of that balloon garland moving around. So I attached the 260Q to a brick and then wrapped that around a couple balloons at the base of the balloon garland and wrapped the trash bag around that brick so that it won't pop the balloons. So now I'm adding in some more balloons at the bottom to cover up that brick. And then again, I'm just adjusting and adding balloons to the balloon garland as needed. Making balloon garlands is like making art. Everything is not a specific science when it comes to this. I can tell you how many balloons I use for my balloon garland base to give you a starting point. But it's up to you to decide how full you want your balloon garland to be and what type of design you want to use. And so that's going to determine how many balloons you use for your garland. So now I'm adding my 5-inch decorators. I'm using a 260Q balloon, and I actually cut those 260Qs in half to save on material. And that first cluster, I want to make sure I covered up that backdrop clip. So I actually tied that 5-inch cluster directly to the backdrop clip so you won't see it anymore. I'm going to tie another one to that other backdrop clip directly above it. And I'm just adding my 5-inch decorators to fill in gaps and to add more dimension and complexity to my balloon garland. One thing I wanted to note is that you should make sure you have enough weights for your backdrop, especially for outdoor events. You want at least about 40 to 50 pounds of weight for your backdrops. So here is the finished product to my Hobby Lobby Chiara wall and safari themed balloon backdrop. So I will leave a link to all of the materials that I use in the description box below this video. And again, you only needed one tool, which was that small little screwdriver that I used. So if you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, go ahead on and like it, and please subscribe and you'll get notifications on future videos on balloon and event decor. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.